Today I'm going to be talking about The Monkey, but I do want to thank you guys for your patience. I feel like I haven't been posting very much. It's not even a feeling, it's just a fact that I have not been posting very much. I kind of went into hibernation a little bit in January and February, so it's been really nice to just take that time. And I just wanted to thank you at least for being patient with videos. I have a lot coming in March, hopefully a very full calendar in March. So hopefully we can get back on track with video making and everything. I do have a lot of book content coming, and I know that's not everyone's favorite, but that is genuinely what I feel like filming. I have been filming a video all month as well for a book video that I'm so excited about. Anyway, you wanna know what's funny? I watched 2 movies in the month of February. 2 whole movies, Companion and The Monkey. I actually rewatched Cuckoo last night too, so I guess we can count that, but 2 new movies. That's all I've watched. I'm into shows right now. I'm really loving Severance. Just started Dark Matter, which is one of my favorite books of all time. Anyway, that's where I've been. That's just a little update. I have been consuming shows, not movies. It's the year of the shows for me. Finally, let's talk about The Monkey. That's why you clicked on this video. I'm sorry for the long intro. I just feel chatty because I haven't filmed in a long time and I feel like just talking to you. When twin brothers find a mysterious wind-up monkey, a series of outrageous deaths tear their family apart. 25 years later, the monkey begins a new killing spree, forcing the estranged siblings to confront the cursed toy. So this is described as a horror comedy, so it's definitely on the more lighthearted horror side, and people have been comparing this to Final Destination. And I saw that comparison before I went to see it, and I don't know if that was the best thing for me. Just given the variety of deaths in The Monkey and the means in which people do die, and the creativity and just the sheer number, I feel like that's why people are comparing it to Final Destination, and that's one of my favorite series of all time. Now, The Monkey is based on the short story by Stephen King that was originally published in a magazine in 1980, and then it was republished in his collection of stories called Skeleton Key in 1985. And The Monkey is distributed by Neon. So Neon is definitely becoming a popular company. I feel like there's a better way to say that, but that gets the point across. That's fine. It's becoming more recognized, I feel like, given last year we got Cuckoo from them, we got Longlegs. I feel like Longlegs really put Neon on the map. Obviously they've done successful films before, but Longlegs, I think, also highlighted them. And funny enough, that is also from Oz Perkins, who did The Monkey as well. And The Monkey is now the 2nd highest grossing movie for Neon, next to Longlegs. So Osgood Perkins brought them both the most successful films under their house. I'm gonna call it a house. I don't know. Speaking of Oz Perkins, let's talk about him for a second. So I was okay, first I was not excited about The Monkey because I just feel like I'm over Stephen King adaptations. That's just one of my hot takes. I feel like we can stop doing them. Some of my favorite movies, 1408, Pet Sematary, Misery, Stephen King adaptations, The Mist, I could go on and on. There's a lot of great ones. However, we just don't need any more right now. I feel like we can wait a little while and take a little bit of a break. I feel like every year there's a new Stephen King adaptation and I'm just a little tired. So I wasn't excited because of that. But then I saw Osgood Perkins was the director. And I'm usually a huge fan of his work. Now, he did Gretel and Hansel, which is just one of my personal favorite movies. It is so stunning. He also did The Black Coat's Daughter, another stunning, stunning movie. So he makes beautiful films, and I feel like he just really gets filmmaking. He's just very talented and he does things that are in my taste. So I'm always gravitating towards his movies. Now, The Monkey, I would say, has a very different tone to his other films. Like the other ones I would categorize as like beautiful, psychological, slower burn kind of movies, and definitely not on the lighthearted side. They are much more heavy and interesting horror movies. Some people would even say that they're not horror movies because they're so like psychological, you know, kind of like Longlegs. It's like that dread and that kind of atmosphere. This was not in the same vein at all. So I think that was what was most shocking to me. This is like if Oz Perkins did a comedy. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if that worked for me. It kind of left me a little bit disappointed. I was hoping for some of that atmosphere that he's so good at in The Monkey, and I just felt like it was lacking a little bit of that dread and that tension that his other films are just dripping with, you know what I mean? I did enjoy his cameo in The Monkey though, I'm not gonna lie. I thought that was funny. Honestly, probably the best part, funny, like humor-wise. I liked his cameo. I don't know, I thought that was fun. Speaking of cameos or small roles, Adam Scott had a small role in the beginning of this movie, which was a surprise, and Elijah Wood. I knew Elijah Wood was in this film, but I did not know what character he was going to play. And for the longest time, like, when is Elijah Wood? Did I read that right? Like, I'm pretty sure Elijah Wood is in this, because I reported on this movie like a year ago, and I said Elijah Wood's in it. Anyway, I do wish they were both in it longer. I feel like Elijah Wood's character was just goofy, definitely goofy, and a little bit over the top. Every character was pushed over the top, and so given that, it creates this lighthearted tone throughout the entire movie that doesn't have any weight. There's no like seriousness in this film that, you know, can portray that dread. I'm sure you've heard this trivia item, this fun fact floating around the internet because everyone's talking about it, but the symbols in this, well, it's not in this movie, the symbols that are originally in the toy had to be changed to a drum because Disney trademarked a monkey with symbols for Toy Story 3, which is very strange to me. Why would you trademark that? Because that was a thing before you made Toy Story 3. And it's funny because the person who directed Toy Story 3, or, you know, like helped create it, he put that monkey toy in the movie because he was a fan of Stephen King and because of Skeleton Key and the monkey short story. So it just is kind of random, a little bit weird. Honestly, I liked the drum more. If we had to hear goddamn cymbals every time there was a death, I would have walked out. I would have had to wear like headphones because I can't do the like cymbal clapping. The drum was much more pleasant. I feel like the drum is not as like grating and sharp on the ears, you know? So I'm not mad at the change at all. This also had a lot of references to Stephen King, and I understand why they would do it in a Stephen King adaptation, but it is one of my pet peeves when other horror movies like put in homage to The Shining in an unrelated movie. I hate that, you know, room 237, blah, 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 the carpet pattern, you know, I hate that kind of thing. But in this movie, I feel like it's fine because it's Stephen King adaptation. Of course, they're going to have it. But some of it was so literal that I was like, there was a character named Annie Wilkes. You couldn't be more literal. At least have her name be Annie or something. Like Annie Wilkes. Just a straight same name as Misery. Like, I just thought that was really funny. Okay, let's get into the things I liked, and then we'll talk about all the things I didn't like. My things I liked list is a little bit shorter than the things I didn't like. I'm sorry. It was fine. It was an entertaining movie. I'll get into it, but I have more criticisms than I do praises. So first up, I liked the editing. I thought the hard cuts were really funny, and I feel like it was almost like a literal punchline to a joke in a visual form, if that makes any sense. I just thought it was funny how it would just like hard cut to something. It'd be like mid-scene or mid-sentence or like immediately following a sentence that contradicts the next scene that it cuts to. I thought that was really entertaining. Obviously, the reason to watch this movie is for the death scenes. That's what you say about Final Destination, sometimes Saw. That's kind of what you're in it for. That is what people are going to continue to talk about. However, I don't feel like, I'm just getting into a criticism right away, I don't feel like the deaths are as memorable as Final Destination. It's not going to create a iconic tanning bed situation, log truck. It's not going to affect us as much as Final Destination did, you know? But some deaths were better than others. I kind of want to do like a TikTok ranking all of them. I think that'd be funny because they are so over the top. And so much so that they make Final Destination look like a documentary film. Like those are more believable than any of the deaths in The Monkey. Like they are so asinine and so bizarre. And it's funny because I'm always asking myself with Saw movies, like, how do they keep coming up with ideas? Same with Final Destination. We have the 6th one coming out this year. And I know one of the death scenes, and it's like, they're just so creative. Everyone's so creative. And it's like, how did they come up with that? And then this one is literally like, it just takes it way, way over the top. Again, it adds to the entertainment value, but it takes away from the serious tone of the movie, which this is not. So in that sense, it doesn't, you're not like dreading the death as much as when you're like waiting for it to happen in Final Destination. Granted, they do drag it out a little bit in Final Destination. Okay, I get it. That's kind of like a joke that it's like, all right, can we just get to it? Because it just like is so long. This one doesn't drag it out like that, but at the same time, it also doesn't give us enough time or believability for us to be like, shocked by it that much. It was an entertaining movie. That's what I liked about it. There was no part that was boring. I was entertained by this, and that's all I can really ask for at the end of the day from a movie. It was entertainment. I do wish that there was more Oz Perkins atmosphere building. I do wish there was more dread and a little bit more of a serious tone. And, you know, it was just a little too silly goofy for me. So let's get into the things I didn't like about The Monkey. The comedy didn't really work for me. I'm very picky in particular when it comes to comedy, and my kind of comedy in a dark comedy kind of movie is like in Companion. Companion really worked for me humor-wise. Barbarian really works for me humor-wise. This one felt like it was trying too hard at certain points to be ridiculous and silly. It just felt too obvious. A lot of the jokes were too obvious and too on the nose and just like silly and predictable and expected. It was expected. So it's just not my taste in comedy. I understand if people like it and think it's funny. Like, I totally see that. But just for me personally, it's not my preference when it comes to like humor in a horror movie. I think this movie was a little bit messy. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little bit exhausted by all of the random characters introduced only to give them a creative death. We didn't care pretty much about anybody, and because there were just so many people we had to meet along the way. And as an introvert, I wasn't here for it. The body count is so high in this movie. I wish I could tell you the number without, I don't know if that's a spoiler or not, but it's so high that I don't think any movie this year will top it. I think it's gonna have the highest body count overall, unless you count like a disaster film maybe. I don't know what's coming out this year in that regard. But I predict this is one of the highest body counts in any movie coming out in 2025. But just the sheer number of people introduced only for the purpose of being killed off, that's one of my pet peeves also in horror, is that I feel like it's such a stereotype. It's a cliche to and you know who is gonna be killed. Like, you know immediately what's gonna happen, like when they introduce these random people. So for me, that left the storytelling and like the story itself a little bit messy and disorganized, and just kind of went from scene to scene, and it didn't really flow enough for me. I'm gonna be a little bit particular about how the CGI gore looked. Wasn't my favorite, I'm not gonna lie. They could have been better, okay? I know they can't do practical effects for every death in a movie like this because there's so many. So I get it, they didn't have the budget to really do that, but I just didn't find the gore looked that great. There were some that looked good, and then some you can tell they didn't spend the budget on doing that, so it was CGI. So that was a little bit disappointing. Expected also, because again, the number of deaths, they can't do it for all of them. So I kind of understand the choices that they made, and I do appreciate that some of them looked good, but some of them just look bad. I don't know. I didn't, as I've mentioned a million times so far, I didn't like how unserious it was. Like I've mentioned, I needed a little bit more a serious tone in it, because even in Final Destination, you can say that that's an unserious movie with like funny parts to it. But when it came out at the time, it was taken more seriously, and even the reactions to the deaths in Final Destination are much more realistic than the reactions to the death in The Monkey. They almost just like scoffed at how unlucky they were to witness a death like that, you know? It was just like, oh, again, another one. But if you look at Mary Elizabeth Winstead of Final Destination 3 and her genuine terror and reactions to what's happening, you can still have a movie that has a similar tone, although it's definitely more serious than The Monkey, and still have like genuine reactions. In fact, that probably would have added a lot for me if they were a little bit more genuine in how they responded to all of the death around them. There was one death that I rolled my eyes at. It just completely rubbed me the wrong way, because there was no reaction to it, and there should have been. Some of the strangers, the random death scenes, sure, okay, I get it. He doesn't have to break down crying at what he witnessed. But there were some deaths that should have caused some kind of reaction, positive or negative, and we didn't get anything. There was nothing there in his eyes. There were also specifically one major moment towards the end that felt like it was so obviously from the story. Again, I didn't read it, but if I had to guess, it's definitely in there. And they put it in the movie, and it just felt so random because there's no narrative surrounding it. So you're like, what is that? What am I looking at? Why is that there? Because in the movie itself doesn't work. I'm sure in the story it had like a deeper meaning because there's probably someone narrating, right? But to put it in the movie, it felt really out of place. And there were a couple things that kind of stood out to me as like, oh, well, it's an adaptation. So they're just shoving things in from the story into the movie that don't really work, but just for the sake of making an adaptation. And the last thing I didn't really enjoy about The Monkey was my theater experience. I can say that boomers love to talk. Boomers love to narrate what is happening on the screen. Now, I did stay until after the credits to see the sneak peek for Oz Perkins' next movie called Keeper. Definitely looks more up my alley and more like his other movies, and it definitely has me more excited than The Monkey did. I feel like he was just a random pick to do The Monkey, and I'm still a little bit confused by it because it's not in his style. It's not his tone that he usually does. There wasn't beauty to it like his other films, so I'm really hoping Keeper has that. It looks like it does, just from what I saw, and it looks definitely not like a lighthearted film. It looks interesting. So if you can find a clip of it, I recommend watching the teaser only. Don't watch the trailer when it comes out, because why would you? Stick to teasers. Anyway, those are all my thoughts on The Monkey. I'm not gonna add in any spoilers or anything because it wasn't that special. There was no need to really expand on any of that unless, you wanted to hear about my favorite death or something. I don't know. But maybe in the future I'll mention that. Anyway, I give it 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5. Entertainment was good. I wasn't bored. It could have been worse. It was a Stephen King adaptation. It's a 3 out of 5. I would love to hear your thoughts on The Monkey if you have seen it in theaters. Personally, I would say you don't have to see it in theaters, but I recommend supporting any movie in theaters these days to keep it going, because straight to streaming or going to streaming is so fast, like the turnaround time. So it's good to support theaters still. So I do recommend seeing movies in general in theaters, but this one, there's nothing really special about it. So like if you are trying to pick which one to watch, this isn't really it. There's so many coming out in March. I'm a little bit overwhelmed. There's at least 7, and I think now there's 8 films coming out in March. So I'm gonna try my best to review as many as I can, as many as I can see. I have no idea what that's gonna look like in the month of March. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on The Monkey. What is the movie you're most excited about seeing in March and watching me review it? Leave a comment down below. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.